Occasionally, on a summer afternoon in New England, you may have experienced this as well. The leaves will rustle in just a way that causes me to pause. Kind of like a mama deer at the edge of the woods. Everything becomes frozen, and like little ears start moving around, assessing Mother Nature's data. And then, with a flick of my tail, it is nothing, and back to whatever. But there have been a handful of times that this breeze would start, and then something completely unexpected happened. When my now grown teens were little kids, we used to travel a lot around this incredible country of ours, visiting national parks and camping up and down New England. And they knew, those wee little children of mine, they knew that before I backed out of that driveway, I'd look over my shoulder and do a safety check. Are we protected? Seatbelts on, everything in place. And I'd say in my cheesiest mom voice, next stop? Exactly, adventure! And they knew, at least when they were little, I wouldn't pull out of that driveway until at least one of them said back to me, adventure. On one particular July afternoon, in the summertime on the coast of Maine, just off the ocean, we were setting up camp. It was going to be a fabulous week for our family, and that wind started to pick up. And we stopped and we paused and we realized that the sky was turning into a dark charcoal blanket starting to surround us. So we scooted the kids into the camper. And when inside, we felt safer, and that rain started to pound, and then it morphed into a hail that raged on top of that fiberglass roof. But then, when that camper started rocking for not the right reasons, the wind was shaking us so forcefully that we decided, my husband and I, we looked at each other and we decided the best place for the 5 of us was underneath the table. And that's where we huddled. Suspended in time, neither of us can even remember how long it was. We were simply protecting what we loved fiercely. And then it was over. Tentatively and cautiously, we started to look around. The plastic skylights cracked, but we were fine. And we opened that door to the camper, to the most bizarre panorama. A July afternoon looked like a snowy scene from December, covered in hail. Tents had been pummeled down and trees were on top of cars. And over on the side, a couple walked out of the woods, dazed from being out there hiking. And then over here, a car with a kayak hastily thrown on top creeped in over the gravel and the hail road. The storm had been a microburst, a mile wide, knocking down poles and trees like a bowling alley in this teeny tiny New England town. Now, I have to admit that it would have been very normal for us to spend the entire week there and never to actually really talk to people 22 feet to our left and 8 feet on the backside of our slider. We just do what we do. But as the storm rolled out to sea, so did the boundaries. And instead, we started to look at each other in the eyes and laugh kind of uncomfortably and look around and see who we could help. We would move forward. We would dig in like never before. We could not make, any of us on that campground, none of us could make that brief but terrifying moment unhappen, but we could repair, we could rebuild, and we could recover. Now, the Marsh family, well, we continued to camp over the years, and we did collect more stories like this that, well, involved grizzly bears, buffaloes, and flying fishing boats. But we prepared also in other ways. We wove in precautionary measures into our routine, like getting weather apps onto our smartphones. We tried to be savvy about what could happen and what was ahead. I think about this a lot because I know that we all have been impacted in variations of life adventures. When our children are diagnosed with a chronic or inflammatory disease, the devastation of a loss of a friend or a parent, or even the tiniest little flashing news headline that freezes you to your core. Swift, staggering, but simultaneously you know that something in your life has fundamentally changed forever. I first became very mesmerized by this process, this part of being human, with one of my own diagnoses. When we sat in a little room in Boston across from two of the nicest people who were going down a road map of the adventures ahead that basically started off with chemotherapy treatment, chemotherapy recovery, chemotherapy treatment, surgery. And as I talked, I felt like I could see this little figure, almost like that little guy out of the Lorax or something, inside my head, going around every file drawer, looking through everything I've known, everything in my knowledge, anything I've read or my experience on how the hell to get out of here and not make this happen. I did not want this to be my story. I did not want this to be my life. But my gut knew the only direction was to go forward. No other direction but to dig in like never before. I now, 10 years later, I now witness this, whatever we want to call it here, this processing in a different way all across the country. And it's like little snaps of electricity happening all over our country right now. And that's when we decide to become savvy about non-toxic living. I didn't mean to just compare it to chemotherapy. But the idea of taking on something that you don't necessarily want to learn about, but you're going to. Now, non-toxic living, it's a phrase. It means health. That's what it really is. But if I say I'm a nonprofit about health, then you might think, it's about cholesterol. If I say it's about safety, you might think it's about helmets or condoms or something. I don't know. So we went with non-toxic living, which is basically how our environment, our water, our air, our soil, our environment, which can be the personal care products we bring into our home, cleaning products, and the food that we eat, and how it's been grown or created, how all of this impacts and interacts with our very own bodies. And as we start to learn about it, as we go through that stack of books or meet with others in our gatherings, there are sensations of a loss of trust. How? Why? How do these companies market and manipulate me over all these years? There's a sense of being overwhelmed. The science is coming out faster and faster and supporting this, and how do we keep up with it? But yet, is it even affordable to go on this journey? Is it accessible? Overwhelming. And that sense that just gets me in the heart. And I, in my position, I hear it more often than others because the people confide in me, a sense of feeling isolated. And that breaks my heart. Because women often feel like they want to learn about this, but they're not feeling like they're around others who they can talk about it with. And they're not feeling like they had the support from their family and their spouses. So let's talk about this non-toxic living adventure for a second. In the big picture, kind of like Google Earthing out here, zoom out. I think a really nice way to capture it is that really shareable, clickable quote, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has," by Margaret Mead, right? Nice picture of Earth. Click, share, forward. It's nice. It's so true. And it's reflective of the last 50 years of this movement. 50 years. Scientists, advocates, activists, and a smaller number of elected officials, state and federal, a growing number of Better For Us businesses have dedicated decades in lives to protecting us. Us when we were children, us when we were teens, when we were young mothers. We had no idea this was happening. It was going on, and the dedication to protect us. It's a massive system, slowly pushing forward. One step forward, maybe 2 steps back. Over 50 years. It's been pretty good with many wins. But more recently, in the smaller part that I've been involved in it, I have had the honor of being in DC and meeting with our elected officials. I have testified in our state houses. I have had the chance to present at industry conferences. And now, as an author, a protector, an advocate of health, I am here to tell you today that there is a bone-chilling dark cloud of gravity like never before in our movement. We are in a vicious hailstorm right now. I want to be happy, positive Kristi right now, I promise you, but I have to talk to you with respect and with honesty. And this hailstorm is pitting industry against humanity, polarizing money in one corner versus the health of our beautiful, beautiful bodies into the opposite corner, like a boxing ring. This is not how it's supposed to be. And it places power as the priority over the safety and health of our planet. A small group of committed citizens is no longer enough. Thousands and thousands of thoughtful, brave, committed citizens have to choose to come together and protect fiercely. That's where we are right now. But you know what? We've done this before. We totally got this. Think about it. Wasn't it just yesterday, it seems like, that many of us were on road trips over summer vacations, maybe wrestling with our siblings in the back of a station wagon, right? No seatbelts, unrestrained. If you saw that today on I-90, you might pull out your phone and videotape it and post it online. It's that bizarre. How did we get from there to here? When did the small group of protectors shift to the masses to get there? And how many lives have been saved because of it? And just before that, a decade or two before that, a time when, smoking was glamorous. When you could go on a cross-country flight and choose to sit on the airplane in the smoking section. What? At what point in that transition did the majority embrace the idea that inhaling nicotine, formaldehyde, lead, arsenic, ammonia, and benzene was cool? This shift happened against one of the most manipulative industries of its time. But yet, how many lives were lost before we all got on board? So how do we move forward? Let's bring it back to Kristiism right here, right? A little savviness. How do we move forward? What can we do? What do we need to know? Number one, we choose to fiercely protect our fundamental, unalienable right to protect our health. We have to choose it. We step forward, we choose, we fiercely protect it. It's our fundamental right to protect our health, period. And then we activate a small community around us, a personal community where those boundaries dissolve. We're no longer campsite 52 and 58. We are all one. And we infuse our circles with connection, and we share ideas, and we bring in speakers. You just experienced it, a gathering here tonight. This is what it's about. This is what Savvy does. We provide that support so that you have the right to learn with like-minded women in a way that's supportive and not negative or angry or salesy. And so you can start building those local resources and make it accessible and affordable. And then 3, then we can move forward like never before. And to do this, it's kind of simple, right? You answer the blank in this sentence. I am a thoughtful, committed protector because I am part of this non-toxic living movement because I, and fill in the blank. Because I no longer find Facebook to be gratifying, and I have 2 more hours in my month, and I'm going to start volunteering instead. Because television in the evening, I'm just staring at something that I'm really not engaging with, and I'm going to step forward and help out instead. Plan 5 gatherings in a year for my community. Maybe I cannot donate time at this time in my life, but I can donate. These are all options for that sentence. But if you are unsure yourself what that blank looks like to you, then I want you to email me, team@savvywomensalliance.org, and say, what can I do? How can I help? I want to be part of this. I just am not sure how. That's it. And we will do this together. We're going to rebuild, repair, recover, and we're going to rejoice. This is what we do. We are not a nonprofit working in isolation. We are one of many. And if Savvy is not your perfect fit, if this isn't your hive or your tribe, it's okay. Find your place. It can be with one of our nonprofit sisters, a campaign for safe cosmetics, Made Safe, Safer States, Silent Spring Institute, Women's Voices for the Earth. That's the beautiful thing. This is not polarizing. We are all in this together. Listen, I get it. The last thing I wanted to discover was that my life's purpose was centered around the doom and gloom of toxins. But when we become savvy about our surroundings, we realize that it's not the landscape that we thought the world was going to be. But we can choose to be savvy. And whether you feel like you are skeptical or curious or passionate or anywhere in between there, please know that when we are united, we use our power through our pocketbooks, through our votes, through our gentle encouragement to each other, and we will move forward. And we will weather this storm, and when that storm clears, there will be a healthier and safer world for generations to come. Thank you.